how did British Columbians get to the point where they've got the NDP trying to bore its way into power against a Liberal Party who are Conservatives who've done a good job running the province and are just in huge trouble in the polls? Well, it's like this. For a long time, the province was run by the Social Credit Party, first Whack Bennett and then Whack Bennett Jr. or Mini Whack, followed by the colourful William van der Zalm, but eventually the Socreds completely ran out of steam. At that point, the NDP got a second try at power. Now, they had a problem because they'd been in the early 70s and they were just too radical in those days. They did some stuff that needed to be done, but the style was wrong, far too zany. When they came in the second time, one NDP insider said, "This time we're going to make an omelette that can't be unscrambled." But that wasn't the plan of the Premier. His name was Mike Harcourt, a moderate, genial, reasonable guy, former mayor of Vancouver, made his cabinet, put on jackets and ties and all that kind of thing. They did their best to be reasonable, but they hiked taxes, they went after the forest industry, they were too good to their friends in the unions. They almost lost to the Liberal Party, which had been brought from nowhere, resurrected by a guy named Gordon Wilson, except he had an affair with his House leader. It was taken over by Gordon Campbell. He asked British Columbians if they had the courage to change, and they didn't like the sound of courage, so he gave the NDP a second term in '96. By this point, poor Mike Harcourt had to step down over a scandal he wasn't even involved in. He was a bit of a chump. His successor, Glenn Clark, was driven out over a scandal he was involved in, and then they had the first Indo-Canadian premier. They handed him a bag of ashes and said, "Hey, here's the government." So then you did get the Liberals in. They said they'd cut taxes, they did cut taxes. They said they'd make it a place to invest, they did make it a place to invest. Responsible fiscal managers, the economy was going pretty well. At one point, the Premier managed to get himself arrested for drunk driving in Hawaii and produced a really embarrassing sort of goofy, hammered grin mugshot. But people didn't mind that, even when he came back and cracked down on drunk driving in British Columbia. But what Gordon Campbell did that really got him in trouble was he won another election in 2009 without saying anything about his plans to bring in the HST, and then after the election, boom, he brought it in. This caused a huge kerfuffle. In fact, it even brought Bill van der Zalm back from the political grave to campaign against the HST along with the NDP. In the end, a referendum was called, the HST was decisively voted down, and in fact, the Liberals did get rid of it. So they kept their promise to fix their broken promise. But people were tired of them by this point, they didn't trust them, so now the NDP is trying to convince everybody they really are moderates this time. It's not just sort of Mike Harcourt as a front. Adrian Dix is a boring guy, he might pull it off. But if they really are radicals, they're going to be in a heap of hurt. People are getting suspicious, the polls are getting tighter. And that's how you got boring NDP versus conservative Liberals in a race that's starting to look like a nail biter.